It's January 17th, 2018, 1:30 meeting. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Dominic, Johnson, Jackson, Lynn,
Here.
Bowman, Cawthorn,
Present.
Gage Watts, Middleton,
Here.
Atkins,
Here.
Chavez,
Yes, sir.
Smith, Lewis Johnson.
Present.
If we'd all stand, Commissioner Lewis Johnson will lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Atkins will lead us in the pledge, please.
Let's pray. Our Father and our God, we come to you now in the name of Jesus. Lord, we thank you for this day, oh God. We thank you for your grace and we thank you for your mercy. Lord, we pray now that you would give us direction, oh Lord, and that you might put us on one accord, oh Lord. We pray, oh God, that all that we say and all that we do might give you glory. Bless our efforts, oh God, those things that we govern on today. We pray that we be pleasing in your sight. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in facing the flag and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we move forward, I would just like to say that, everybody was aware that our meeting workshop was actually set yesterday, but we had to move it today because of the inclement weather, and we're required by law to have a workshop before our regular session. I tried to have it Thursday, but it just wouldn't give us time to have a workshop session and have the agenda items posted. The clerk couldn't do that. This just wasn't legally. So I appreciate everybody coming in today at 1:30 on this cold winter day. So Todd, I'll turn it back over to you for the.
Next we have agenda additions. I have none.
And the next item is the citizens' comments. Any citizens who wish to address the commission must fill out a comment card and forward it to myself or to the clerk of the commission. Citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes. Todd, I don't have any comments cards. You
I have no cards either, sir.
Mr. Settle, you not speaking today? Okay. Moving on to our next item.
All right, we have no visitors. We move to old business. Old business is to authorize appointment, reappointment to the Metropolitan Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Chavez and seconded by Commissioner Middleton to authorize these appointments. We have two individuals. So if this motion passes, we would vote on Mr. Young first and Mr. Hamilton.
We would vote on tomorrow. This is set
Okay,
to
just
be
move it.
for
That's
tomorrow.
right. Just move them to Thursday. Okay. I'm getting, all right, so we have a motion to move these names to Thursday. No one's on the board. Please move. Please vote.
Sure.
7-0.
Okay, that passes.
Next, we move to new business, authorize introduction of ordinance number 5752 to authorize the lease of flood acquisition property located at 595 Tier Road.
Move to advance to Thursday.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Atkins, seconded by Commissioner Middleton to move this to Thursday. Please vote.
I'll speak on it if you like, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, this is a constituent of District 9 who's interested in, his property surrounds this Caddo Parish property on 3 sides. He's interested in leasing the property from the parish just for his use. It's gone through the Public Works Department. They're all good with it. They'll use a standard parish lease for this type of activity. So I request that you approve it. Thank you, sir.
Please vote. Oh, Commissioner Jackson?
Is there a copy of the lease?
I don't have a copy of the lease.
It's not drafted yet, I don't believe.
We don't have one drafted, because we've got to figure out the market value of it and insert.
So will we, before we finally, it's a 2-reader, as I can appreciate it, right?
It's a what?
2-reader, so
Yes.
this won't be adopted. Okay, and would y'all know that by final adoption, or are we just gonna
It
approve it
depends.
then?
Depends on how, the ordinance is
for a fair market price, so I don't know that the appraisal would be in prior to that.
Oh, so we're getting the appraisal now?
Yes.
Okay. But we're being,
You got the
we're being
appraisal
asked.
now?
No, I'm
You
just,
will be getting appraisal?
yeah, I don't need the,
Well, actually,
oh,
yeah,
Robert, speak.
we will.
Come on, Rob.
No,
This is a property that was paid for through FEMA, and it's just, and nothing can be built on it. And so usually what happens in these cases, it's been
Park or
leased
something.
before, they just take care of it really for us, so it's a very minimal lease.
Right.
So basically, we're trading out them cutting the grass and taking care of the property versus us having to cut the grass. So it'll be
But I-
a minimal lease.
I got you.
And may I just,
Tim,
Tim, how many acres are we talking about here? I mean, it's not.
It's just a couple acres. And the gentleman that bought the property, I mean, he still, he don't automatically get it, but it's usually, that's who, we've had these properties leased long-term in the past, but they've expired. And then the new owner is wanting to lease the property, so.
Thank you, Tim.
So, so the parish owns the property right now?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, we just own the property, but we had to sign a stipulation stating that, nothing can be built on it.
Right.
Because I mean,
think they
basically
usually
it's-
put like maybe one of those parks or something on it.
like gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put any permanent structures on it.
Right.
I mean, because
No,
I
no, no,
mean,
no.
the reason they just want it to be open land.
Right, because it's in the flood area.
Yes.
But we don't have all the information with regard to the appraisal right now.
Apparently not.
We wasn't getting
Well-
appraisal on it
Oh, y'all not
Actually-
gonna get appraisal?
unless Donna tells us to.
What we will be actually looking at that so that we can, get the price for the land plus and subtract from that what we are going to, not have to spend in upkeep, so that basically it's gonna be something that's used as a baseline
I
whenever
got
this
you.
property comes up.
I got you. So, my next question is, will we have that before final adoption?
That I do not know. Probably not.
I would say no.
Looking at the look on their face, it's probably not.
Yeah.
The current lease before it expired was $25 a year. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Just
Anything
wanted to make sure it acts though.
Okay, no one else is on, please vote. Move this to Thursday.
This is the beach. Let's see.
Middleton.
I voted. It's showing green.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Authorize resolution number 6 of 2018 to form a banking development.
So
task
move for
force.
introduction.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Jackson, I guess to move this to Thursday, seconded by Commissioner Lynn Cawthorn.
I have an alternative motion.
Okay, Commissioner Atkins?
I'd like to propose that we move this to the Long Range Planning Committee.
I'll second that motion. So we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Atkins and seconded by myself to move this to Long Range Committee,
Long Range Planning.
Long Range Planning Committee. Commissioner Atkins, do you want to speak on your motion?
As a general rule, I like to allow the private sector to make its own decisions without involvement from the public sector. I recognize that this is not imposing any regulation or any restriction, it's just a committee. But out of those committees, sometimes recommendations develop, and I just want to make sure that we've thought through this fully and appropriately, as I'm sure Commissioner Jackson would want us to as well. So I think the Long Range Planning Committee would be a good place to discuss this.
I'll speak since I seconded. I agree with you, and I thank Commissioner Jackson for bringing this up. But at the last meeting, you remember, I asked about, whether there was any statutes, and I was told there were none. And then Commissioner Chavez had forwarded, so we found out there was actually statutes that already set up the banking district that is controlled by the Commissioner of Financial Institutions, if I remember correctly. Obviously, what this will do is set up a task force to look at that, but I still think there's questions about, who should be on this task force and think the statute needs to be included in on the resolution, and I think it's a good idea to at least let us look at it at the Long Range Committee. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll vote on the substitute
I
motion.
I was on the board.
Jackson.
Oh, there
I
he
didn't
is.
see it.
I know, but it moved up to the,
Okay.
it moved to the yellow.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I believe we discussed this and, we talked about it very thoroughly. All we're doing is setting up a task force. Yeah, I'm confused as to who else would need to be added. No one brought anything to my
I don't-
attention
I
about
don't
who
think
would need to
it's-
be added or.
I don't think it's necessary who to be added, but there's some people on there, wondering why specifically they are on there. So.
I mean, but if there's a change, you
And I
just
don't-
make an amendment from the floor to change it.
Well, I don't remember, it seems like the resolution was different when I looked at it last time. And it's a
It's
completely
just-
new.
Yes, this just sets up a task force. The other one just asks the legislature to create the statute, and then we found out that the statute was already created. So I'm not sure, why would we send this one to a long-range planning committee? It seems like we would want to send 5752 to a long-range planning committee. So, I mean, I have more questions about that one than this.
Is 5752, is that the,
That's the one we just discussed with the lease, where we don't have the appraisals.
okay.
We don't have all the information on it. I mean, I'm confused as to why we would send this one to the long-range planning committee and not send the other.
okay.
If that would be the respect, I would think we would need to send them both to long-range planning committee. Because all we're doing is setting up a task force.
I think there's questions about who is on the task
I
force.
mean,
We'd
we
like
can
to
do that
discuss.
today and tomorrow.
Well, there's some other issues too, so.
Well, that's new. That's news to me.
Okay. Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. My inquiry was going to be why long range and not economic development, but I guess, realistically, it could fit in either, so I'm fine with that. We'll leave it long range. That's all.
Commissioner Jackson? Are you back on board?
Yes. Forgot what I was about to do. I'd like to amend his substitute motion to add that it be that long range planning committee meets prior to our next work session. Prior to the deadline for our next work session.
That's fine.
Man, I want to make that, I'm making that as a motion. So are you second?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So, you
Commissioner-
said the deadline before the next session.
Yes.
That would have to be the Thursday, before the Thursday
Right.
of next week. So or the next 2 weeks, because we actually have 2 weeks in between.
So we'll meet before our next work session, is that what you?
Before the approval of the agenda is what you're saying, basically. Is that what you said, Mr. Jackson? So we'd have to meet before
And I
that
have a
Thursday
question
before we
on my
approve our agendas.
amendment as well.
So obviously, we don't meet next week, it's the following week, so we'd have to meet sometime either next week or that Monday before the work session.
Before the deadline of the next work session. Because we don't meet again until when, Todd?
Let me pull up the calendars, be sure.
You meet again on the 5th of
The 5th.
February for a work session, so you would need
So we have
this
all of-
committee to meet prior to February 1st, which is
I
the
got
deadline for
You
the
have to
agenda.
meet
So we
prior
need to meet prior to February
First,
Okay.
for the deadline for the agenda.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
But you should give us plenty of time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Next Friday.
And I have another question as well.
All right, so hang on, I got a motion by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Chavez to meet before the deadline, long range, on February 1st. Commissioner Jackson, I'll let you go back. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just gonna ask also I'll ask it later.
All right, so we'll vote on your motion first.
To meet prior to our deadline.
Okay. Vote on Commissioner Jackson's motion first, and then we'll vote on Commissioner Atkins' second, okay? And that passes 8-0. Now we're,
So I voted in support of that, so I can withdraw my motion.
No, we have to vote
no,
on it.
I think we
as
still got to
amended.
vote on it.
Right,
Okay.
as amended.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins' motion is to move this a long-range planning committee.
I got another question.
Commissioner Jackson?
Attorney Frazier. I'll come back to you. I'll withdraw.
Okay. We're voting on Commissioner Atkins' motion to move this to long-range planning commission
As amended.
As
amended.
amended, to meet before the first.
to meet before the deadline, whatever date it was, I think February 1st.
February 1st.
Mine should be a yes.
And that's 7,
Mine should be yes.
I think you are, it
Okay.
was 7-1.
Mr. Jackson, yours is a yes, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So it's 8-0.
That's
That's Lewis who voted no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the
7-1.
7-1, that's right.
7-1, okay.
All right. Next item.
Authorize resolution number 7 to request the parish administrator to direct the Department of Animal Services to strive to have offsite adoption every week and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Chavez and seconded by Commissioner Middleton to move this to Thursday. Do we have any discussion?
I'm on the board, I think, sir.
Okay, hang on.
Jackson's first.
I'll speak up my motion.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez, go ahead.
Commissioner Lynn actually put this on the agenda. He can't be here. He asked me to advance it. I know he wants to tighten it up a little bit tomorrow. But this is something that we obviously need, that it either is not getting done or not getting done to the best capability that it needs to happen. So he felt that this needed to go on there. That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis Johnson, is that right? Jackson.
Somebody, who made the
Okay.
second? I don't know who made the second.
Anybody, Mike, you want to talk?
Yeah, I'll just say this. It seems like previously, during some kind of discussions, either on Animal Services Committee or personnel, some kind of committee, it was discussed that one reason for justification for a particular person on the weekends was to accommodate more off-site adoption events, and that's why we're kind of pushing for this, to make sure it's getting done. Seem to be some excuses that's come up recently, and may be legitimate, but there ought to be some kind of backup plan. So I think we need to go ahead and move this forward and see if we can't get it going on a regular basis and not just when at a whim. So we need to have some discussion or consistency on what we're doing out there, and I think it's just going to be a step towards that. I think it's a good move. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Mhm. I'm just curious to know, I heard Commissioner Chavez, and I appreciate Commissioner Lynn for bringing this in his absence. But I'm curious, I heard Commissioner Chavez in his explanation of his motion say that he knew it needed to be tightened up and to tighten it up as we go forward. And so I guess I'm looking for us to be a little bit more consistent. If we can tighten this up as we go, why couldn't we have tightened the banking legislation up as we go? So I just want to point that out as a matter of reference. Let's not pick and choose. This did not come out of a committee. I think nobody favors committee structure more than I do, but I also am in favor of being equity and fair. And if there are questions that are still out there, how is it that we're not asking questions about this issue, but we have more questions to ask about the other one, and we could not tighten it up as we go? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I think there are some questions and people are on the board. So Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, I appreciate the intent of this proposal. However, I always, as you all know, hesitate to dictate how the parish should run their business. And as illustrated by the schedule that the executive director, or the director of Animal Services just distributed, I see 3 adoption exercises on most months through the course of the year. with 5 adoption events in April, 4 in March. Granted, there are only 2 in February, but maybe February is not a good time with the weather for adoption events. So I see a well planned out schedule here. So I just hesitate again to dictate how they run the actual day-to-day aspects of their business. So I'll be voting to not forward this to Thursday. Thank you.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm not sure where Commissioner Lynn is going with this one, because if he needed information relative to what we are doing, a simple email or phone call would have done the trick. I've gotten a request before from Commissioner Middleton back on August the 9th for the same information, and we provide him from January all the way through July. Efforts that we are currently taking to get adoptions done at the shelter on weekends. And the schedule I just gave you was for the entire year. And it does indicate that we're already doing this. So I don't know where the concern is at. If there's a matter of concern about what we're doing, how we're doing it, certainly a conversation would have been in order prior to seeing it on your agenda. And I have not spoken to Commissioner Lynn at all about this. I've spoken to Commissioner Middleton several times about it, and to the soul that Mr. Lucky and I went down to Petco and actually talk and see what our efforts were on weekends when it was validated that we were showing up. So we're already doing what's being asked of us. So what more to be tightened up, I'd like to know.
Can I have a point of clarification on what he just said?
Yes, sir.
When you did send me the initial report, and then I asked for additional information, and you told me you didn't understand the first one, and so it came back with different numbers, and I was just kind of worried about that, concerned about that. This should be available to you or to your staff immediately after an adoption event has happened. And we ought to be up to post that too. We need to be Facebooking what we're doing, and Facebook a little bit more of what we're doing. If we're doing a good thing, let's get it out there in public, and if we're not, but I understand here recently that there was an adoption plan, but it was not held because they couldn't find the keys to the vehicle. And that's really what precipitated this right here, I think, with Matthew. Okay. And I think we have more than one vehicle out there, and why somebody couldn't access the key. If that's their designated responsibility to have this off-site adoption, why did they not make sure on the day before that they had the keys and everything available that they would need? And that's just basic management.
Yes, I understand. The point well taken. I think it was more than just the key issue, but nevertheless, we talk about communications. I've not had a talk with Commissioner Lynn relative to why we didn't go that particular weekend. Okay. And I think if that's what the issue was, we could have had talk about that and address that. So one weekend does not make the entire year for us. So I don't want people to get the impression that we were not there aggressively trying to do something, because we are.
Point well made, but then why was I told it was a key issue, and now you tell me it wasn't necessarily?
No, I mean,
I want consistency. Why don't being told?
We can talk about that offline, Commissioner, but certainly, but a conversation before it appearing on the agenda would have been, I think, decent and in order.
Could we increase these? Could we do more?
We can always try to do the best we can, and I think that's why the Animal Services Committee is so important to us, to talk about issues in a constructive manner prior to getting out here and debating back and forth at the administration, and the commission ought to even engage in discussion on the issue before it gets to this point. That's my only concern.
Commissioner Vice President Sam Cawthorn.
Yes, I want to echo the sentiments of Commissioner Atkins. In the last Animal Services Committee meeting that we had this discussion about allowing administration to do what administration is supposed to do. I'm a little uncomfortable when commissioners are getting into day-to-day operations. And Commissioner Lynn is not here. I just think as a professional courtesy to circumvent the unnecessary discussion around the horseshoe, there should have been a conversation you should have initially had with the administrator, Woody, and maybe this could have been worked out. I do agree that in terms of some action, in terms of what you guys are trying to do, yes, it should be done, but I want to stand with Commissioner Atkins that we need to let administration do its job. If that's a concern, afford the administrator the opportunity to have a conversation with him before we put stuff like this on the agenda. Thanks.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am echoing both Commissioner Cawthorn and Commissioner Atkins, and we have other departments as well And I would feel just the same level of concern if we were to bring up public works or maintenance or anyone else to identify things that can be and should be managed within that area, along with the fact that it's obvious that they are working toward prioritizing adoptions and those type of things. So I know that there are those of us who have concerns in that area, but I think as a matter of just good management and a matter of respectfully respecting the process, that could very well be something that need be done. But should we, as commissioners, go into a department or into a division and request, without even speaking to them, that they manage it a certain way? I think that's a bad practice. I think it's we're setting a precedence there, and I think we all know that. I think if we looked at other areas, we would question that. If we looked at Robert or whomever, who I really respect, and looked at in those areas, we would question that, whether or not that would be prudent to do that. So, but I think that I could not say it any better than Commissioner Atkins said it, and I think that that holds true in that respect. So I disagree with it for that reason, but I also think that if it's something that we need to address, then let's identify it, but let's do it through those processes and committees that are already in place to address that. That would be my position, so I will be voting against it for that reason. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Chavez and Middleton has spoken, so I'll go ahead and speak. I totally agree with Commissioner Lewis Johnson, Commissioner Cawthorn, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Atkins, and y'all's points are very well taken. If y'all remember at the last meeting Thursday when I was here, one of the points I made, and I'm going to continue to reiterate this, is the communications. If you have issues, please, please, please go talk to Dr. Wilson or talk to the director to try to get these matters resolved before they come to us on the horseshoe. I just do not like it anyway whatsoever when we're trying to tell or dictate to our administration and to our staff. That is in our charter. That's like the Constitution. It is extremely important to go by that. If we don't want to do that, then we need to change the charter, put it out for the vote of the people. But the way it's set up, Dr. Wilson, who is over animal control, are the ones that decide the day-to-day activities and how that operates. We shouldn't be doing that. Now, I guess the argument can be made, oh, we're just encouraging, but when you're encouraging, we're going down a slippery slope. I'm not for this. I think that it's a great idea to have adoptions every week, but I don't understand why this conversation wasn't had with Dr. Wilson so he can provide this documentation to us that shows that they're already doing this. So I am not in favor of this, and goes back to one thing that Commissioner Jackson said. For something to come up like this, it should have really come out of committee anyway. So I think we just need to kill this and vote it down right now. Okay, Commissioner Chavez, second time.
Motion to send this to Animal Services Committee.
Second.
Okay, now I have a second motion by Commissioner Chavez.
And I'll speak on it.
Seconded by Commissioner Middleton to send this to Animal Services Committee. Go ahead.
All right. It's obvious that Lynn feels this is necessary to get on the agenda. Again, he didn't tell me what he wants to do as far as tightening it up, and I agree with you guys that him and Dr. Wilson need to talk about this. I do see these numbers on here, and although they look good, I know that I've gotten numerous phone calls on Saturday mornings that nobody's anywhere adopting animals, that we could be doing a better job of adopting animals. I know we have a PR department that's supposed to be putting stuff out on video on Facebook. I don't think I've ever seen a single Facebook post about adoptions this Saturday. I know I've seen a billboard that we spay and neuter, but I've never seen a billboard about these specific dates that are open for adoptions. And I think that type of information would be valuable to the citizens, that, hey, this Saturday from this time to this time at this time, come adopt animals. I've never seen it on the Facebook or the social media or any of that stuff. And obviously the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'll let Crystal speak in a minute. And I just think that obviously it's no surprise to anybody at this horseshoe or anybody out there in the audience that the Animal Services is not doing the best job that they can be. There's no surprise that comes up over and over again. And I know we're trying to get better, but obviously if this has come up enough to Lynn, if it's come up enough to Commissioner Middleton, if I hear about it all the time and I receive emails and Facebook tags, this is probably something that we need to address. Absolutely, you guys are right. Commissioner Lynn probably should have got to Dr. Wilson ahead of time and talked to him about this. But if we push this to Animal Services Committee, then that could be their day in court where they can go discuss this and they can figure out if these numbers are in fact correct, and then what we could do better as a parish to get our adoption numbers up. So I think, although if we just vote it down, the problem will still stay there. We'll still have animals at the animal shelter that need to get adopted out. So I think if we have an educated discussion where we sit down around a committee and they hash those details out at the best interest of the animals, that's what we're looking for. So if you guys can support me and move this to Animal Services and then let them discuss that. That's it, guys.
Commissioner Middleton?
Call for the vote on the substitute amendment to move it to.
Second.
You can't do that on the
Committee.
first time.
I think Commissioner Jackson is right. You gotta wait till everybody has a chance to speak.
On the substitute? Okay, well,
Yeah.
let me go ahead and speak then.
Yes, speak.
And I agree with Commissioner Jackson on this one. This probably should go to the committee. I would like to see more utilization of Facebook and social media. As far as setting up a schedule and letting people know when this is going to happen, instead of, okay, well, let's see, if we have one this weekend, it's good. If we don't, then we don't. So let's try to set up a schedule for the public, because we set up a schedule for other things. I think we have a rabies shot day coming up, and we get other things done out there too. The ID thing's implanted in the pet. So anyhow, I support Commissioner Chavez on sending this to committee.
Commissioner Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, Dr. Wilson or Kelvin, are y'all open to expanding this list? Or is these are previous adoptions, off-site adoptions, right?
Yeah, those are previous adoptions that occurred within 2017.
17.
But we did hire a young lady to work for us on the weekends. Her primary focus will go out for adoptions, but we do adoptions Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay. Now, is there a schedule being developed or anything?
She has a schedule, and also I think we put out. Crystal, you want to talk about the Facebook part of it? If I can kind of give you an idea of what we do. But we do run it on Facebook.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm just going to speak to the PR and the Facebook surrounding the adoption, offsite adoptions. So our adoption coordinator that we do have on the weekends has been trained in our social media, and what she does prior to every adoption, she does post a notification that an adoption is occurring, and at every adoption that she attends, she live streams on Facebook for the event, and that is often cross-posted in our area, I guess, rescue Facebook groups, as well as Petco and some of our partners actually cross-post those live streams and those notifications at every weekend adoption that she does. So she is doing that. That is happening from our Facebook page, or from our Caddo Parish Animal Shelter Facebook page at those weekend adoptions.
So, but that's not from the Parish of Caddo page?
It's from the Caddo Parish Animal Shelter
Shelter
page, which
page.
is one of our pages, one of
Okay.
our affiliate pages.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. I think that's pretty much it for the marketing piece, and I'll speak some more about marketing in general when we get back to communicates. But that, at least for me,
Okay.
that's it on that. Will y'all take recommendations from commissioners on where we may be able to set up?
Yes, sir. We're always open for recommendations.
Okay,
When we have discussions.
okay.
Yes.
You've never been shut down to any?
No.
Okay. And how long you did say no discussion between you and?
No, sir, not relative to this topic.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Atkins?
Mr. Chair, thank you, or Mr. President, thank you. I'm not sure how to fulfill my objective. I'm just going to state what my objective is, and then those of you that are much better with the parliamentary procedure perhaps can help achieve it. But I was just going to simply propose that perhaps Commissioner Chavez's resolution to refer resolution number 7 to the Animal Services Committee also be expanded to include resolution number 8 and resolution number 9, which are all animal service issues.
Wait a minute.
Just
9 is human trafficking.
Just
And 8 is
8 has to do
internal
with
audit.
internal audit, so.
I must be. Oh, sorry, I'm on an old agenda. My apologies. Okay. I retract.
Okay, you're over there trying to confuse the heck out of me.
Sorry. I didn't realize they'd been pulled.
All right, Commissioner Atkins, you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson?
I have a question, but I'll do it off. I wasn't clear on the question about whether or not the numbers were correct. I didn't quite understand that, so I'll get clarity later point. And I appreciate Crystal for her information. That gave some clarity as well. Thank you.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. I just want to. Since we're talking about adoption, see, this is why this should have been in committee. Look at the discussion we're getting into at this level. But we try to provide the statistical charts for you all to kind of let you know where we are. And if you see we've been making steady progress in the number of animals being adopted out, we'd like to get them all adopted out. But we get about 8,000 to 10,000 a year. And we had to be realistic. 8,000 to 10,000 a year in a community of 260,000 people. It's going to always be challenging to get animals adopted out. Not to say we're not doing our best, but we got to be realistic at it. But we are making steady progress from the data analysis we were keeping track of for the past 5 years. But again, my point being that we need to communicate. It need to be in a proper venue. And we don't have to tie up the community's time to listen to this, and it could be in a committee where we design for that nature.
Okay, I just wanted to say one thing. I totally agree with what you said. If this wasn't a slow day, we'd be, and this is a regular workshop or meeting, you know, taking up this amount of time with all the questions, discussion on this is just unnecessary. We have to have better communication. It's going to be one of my main goals. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. It's going to be main. I'd like to have a good year. But if we don't communicate with Dr. Wilson, with Kelvin, or whoever, then it's going to make life difficult for us to commit up here at the Horseshoe, especially this year. Okay? So the motion, the substitute motion would be to move this to committee. If I'm correct?
Yes.
Okay, please vote. Okay, that will be going to the Animal Service Commission that votes 7-2.
Authorize resolution number 8 of 2018 regarding the proposed request for proposals regarding internal audit services to approve the request for proposals and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we remove this from the committee at the request of Commissioner Lynn.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson has made a motion to remove this and seconded by Commissioner Atkins. This is the resolution number 8, correct, Todd?
That's correct.
Okay, so this motion is to remove this. Does anybody have any questions? Please vote. Again, I hope there's some communication on this one too. Next item.
Authorize resolution number 9 proclaiming January as Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month.
Okay, I'm moved by Commissioner Chavez, seconded by myself to move this to tomorrow, so please vote. I'm sorry. Commissioner Linda Johnson?
Yeah, one in
Oh,
Globo.
where'd you come from? I saw your name, I'm going, what the heck?
One in Globo Resolution number 9, the authorization of engagement for the 2017 financial audit. Authorized reappointment of the fire district member. Authorized reappointment of sewer district member. Authorized special resolution for recognition on both of those.
Okay,
And authorize the visitors for the regular session. And in Globo and move forward with it.
okay.
Second.
So you're gonna tell me you come here at the last minute to make this little motion, get everything done? You should have been here an hour ago.
I'm already an hour behind.
I agree.
Okay.
Should have been here an hour.
All right, Commissioner Jackson, do you have anything?
I just want to be, for the record, and I think there was some confusion when the agenda came out. Dr. Wilson, Attorney Frazier, Donna, or Erica, whoever needs to clarify, this is not the audit process that we set up for the other auditing of departments. This is purely our annual financial audit.
Yes.
I want to be clear on that.
That is correct. That's our financial audit, and It was just approving the one that we always, or have used in the past.
Yes, sir. Just for information, your RFP for internal audit went out Friday, January 12th.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chavez?
I just want to make a point that we are reappointing these people back on the board because they're doing a good job. That's the point I'm making. That's
Not
it, Chair.
necessarily.
Okay. Please vote.
Just moving forward with it. We hadn't voted to put them on yet.
All right, as of 8, is it? Commissioner Smith, you vote yes?
No, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Smith voted
So it's
yes.
9-0.
Okay, move to our next item.
Next we move administrative reports.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. Just one item. Just want to remind you all that typically this end of the year, beginning of the year, we start the legislative priorities for the year for the parish, so we can give to the legislative delegation in advance. So if you have something that you'd like to see put on the priority list, please shoot us an email, let us know, and we put it on. We try to put together a comprehensive list of priorities for the upcoming term, and also we try to have a luncheon with the legislators before they go back to the session. So we'll come up with a date that everybody can hopefully make on a Friday, typically for lunchtime, and we can meet with them, give them our priorities for the year, actually help in getting some things passed.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Can you have Karen or someone just email us to remind us?
Yes, sir. We'll send you the
hey,
worksheet.
look, just if you need a priority, go ahead and send it to us. So
Okay.
sometimes we have a tendency to you tell us stuff and then we get back in the office tomorrow and we can totally forget about it.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we get that tomorrow.
Thank you,
We'll
Dr.
meet
Wilson.
tomorrow.
Okay.
That's all I have, sir.
Next we go to communiques and committee reports.
Does anybody have any committee reports? Commissioner Jackson?
Dr. Wilson, on those legislative priorities, how do you, because there seems to be some angst about us telling our delegation on what we want our priorities to be, and when we try to come here formalize doing that, it gets some flack. So do you think we should still do that, or we should just let them go on down and do whatever?
Typically what happens is you all give us your individual priorities, and we put together things that are common interest to the board. It becomes a board priority. If it's an individual commissioner priority, put an asterisk next to it with the commissioner's name on it.
But as I've heard throughout the years, it seems like there's a sentiment that we don't need to be telling our delegation or the legislature what we would like to see them do. I don't know if I'm confused about that or what.
It's been our past practice for the last 8 or 9 years.
Oh, so it's not new. It's not new.
No, sir.
That's what I'm
8 or
looking
9
for.
years. We put together this list of priorities, and we meet with them.
And that
ask
we
them
urge them to do?
Yes, sir.
And ask them to do?
That's correct.
I want to be clear on that. Thank you so much. I also want to, is Crystal here again? She's still here?
Yes, sir, she's here.
Crystal, thank you, not only for yesterday, putting the information out, but I've noticed a appreciable difference in our social media use. I also want to thank you for helping with the implementation of the Facebook Live, and Nathan, and accepting that. I think a lot of folks, as I talk to them, they appreciate the ability. I had the opportunity to just kind of sit in the coffee house Saturday and talk to some folks who were in and around my age, and a couple a little bit older, but they are able to tune into our meetings, and they feel like they are becoming a little bit more knowledgeable of what Caddo Parish is, what the commission is, what we do, because we don't pick up the trash, we don't come fix water mains in certain areas of town, and so folks will tend to kind of overlook us as an important part of local government. And so thank you, Crystal, for the work that you're doing, and like I said, I think it's going to help us with the sort of public perception that we have been dealing with in the past. If Kelvin, if you could get with me offline, I appreciate you last week for looking into that Wild Hog issue. If we can stay posted, I don't know if you got a chance to follow up with the guy from Southern, but if you If,
Yes, sir. They actually live together.
if you want to come up.
Come on up, come on, Kim. Come on up here.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. But yes, sir. So Miss Joy, that was actually doing all the catching. I think she caught 30. She linked up with Boar Busters, and they're going to get a joint effort.
Okay.
So she could actually tell him the movement of all the hogs so that they'll know where to exactly go. This guy is very good. He set up cameras, and he takes care of business.
Okay.
And I'll keep you followed up.
Okay, I didn't know there was an issue also in the southern part. I don't know if y'all are watching that as well, but I know that they had some issues.
No,
in
please
South
inform me
Caddo
if there's
Parish
other areas.
a little while ago as well. So I didn't mention that on the email, but there were some issues.
Jim, not many gyms.
Okay. I just know it was in that southern area at
Okay.
some point, especially in the Southern Hills
Okay.
area.
Okay, just inform me.
But if y'all could keep us in the loop on that. one,
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't know if we want to partner with Susler to deal with that issue, but anything that we can do to deal with it, we'd greatly appreciate it.
For sure.
On these adoption issues, and I know we're going to have some additional conversation on it.
Yes, sir.
I know the farmers market is getting ready to kick off their spring deal. I go to cities all the time, and their farmers market, there's adoptions on site there, and Whole Foods is also a great partner in some areas. So I don't know if y'all want to reach out to them as well.
Yes, sir.
So
Will do.
just stay out, and I have a contact for Whole Foods if you'd like me to give you that person. But appreciate everything you're doing.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
That's it for me, Doc. Mr. President, thank you.
Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, it's my recollection in the past, when we've sent a message down to the legislatures, the state legislature, it typically deals with parish-specific issues. I'd like to request that we continue to deal with parish-specific issues in that request, and that we not, sometimes things will come before this horseshoe that are national in nature, that are beyond the scope of Caddo Parish. I'd ask that we not request attention on national issues when we're submitting our message from the parish. I know in the past you haven't done that. I'm just trying to clarify the distinction for the sake of some of our commission members, and also, and you've done this in the past too. But I would like to ask that you make it clear that some of those communiques are issues that the board, there's general consensus on the board that these are things we're all behind. And then there are other things that are much more specific and the views of individual commissioners. And I do appreciate you being careful to distinguish between the two when you communicate that message on our behalf. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Middleton?
Well, he just added to what I'm going to be saying. Mr. Atkins, thanks for getting all that clarified so everybody can understand that. We appreciate that. I was on board with you anyhow, but I understand what you're saying. Second, Mr. President, thank you for the communication lecture. We needed it. Thank you. We'll get back on target for that, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you not only the parish workers that's kept the roads open, the city workers, the state workers, the police, the fire, and the EMS people. Everyone's come through this problem we're still having here for another day or so. Y'all done a good job. Thank you for everyone. So appreciate that. So I think that's it. Just thank you.
Commissioner Jackson, you back?
Yeah. Dr. Wilson, or Todd, if you would.
That's
If you would, print out 12 copies and stick in the commissioner's box the RS code that actually, maybe Attorney Frazier, I called Dr. Wilson, the RS code that established the commission. And if you could underline the portion that talks about health and welfare and general economic development as part of our function.
The RS code.
The statute.
The commission.
Right, the functions of the Caddo Parish Commission. I think it was 33 something.
Now, those deal with police jurisdiction.
Okay.
And those do not deal with home rule charter jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, I know it's on our website that talks about the mission of the police. It talks about the mission of the Parish Commission, and it talks about our duties and the issues that we deal with. And I know health and welfare and general economic development is a part of that. And I think we often leave that off. And so issues that deal with economic development, issues that deal with health, and issues that deal with general welfare often get overlooked within the mission, scope, and work of the Parish Commission. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
If there's something bigger, can you email it to us?
Yes.
You can save mine, I don't need it.
Next item?
President's report?
Okay, just a couple things, some of the stuff that Commissioner Middleton was saying. First of all, I wanted to talk to Commissioner Johnson. Former Mayor Lampkins of Greenwood passed away. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, sir.
If anybody knew him, he was a great leader in our community, served as the music director, I guess, for the Caddo Parish School Board for many years.
Was it Grantland?
He was the first African-American mayor to be elected to Greenwood, served there, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. So I saw his obituary in the paper yesterday. I was a little surprised, but having known him, I thought he was a really good person. Next thing is the committees have been prepared. Is that list been sent out to everybody?
I have sent it out, yes.
Okay, so everybody knows what committees they're on. I try to do my best job to, I don't know, hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings
I think it's
or
fair.
step on anybody, but I did the best job I could.
I think you did fair, sir.
We did a human trafficking, I guess a proclamation last week with the juvenile. Wanted to be sure, and I'll say this again Thursday, but I want to be sure and thank those commissioners that were there. Commissioner Chavez was there, and Commissioner Middleton was there, Clay and the juvenile staff, and also I know that Commissioner Stormy Gage Watt stepped in my absence, was able to, I guess, read the proclamation. So that's part of one of the items on the agenda. So I do thank her for doing that. The other items is I have spoken to Robert Jump with the Homeland Security and had numerous conversations in communicating with Dr. Wilson over the last few days concerning the weather. And we're sorry we couldn't meet yesterday, but the experts that we were all talking to indicated that it just wasn't going to be a safe time to come out yesterday, so the meeting was moved tomorrow. But I do appreciate Dr. Wilson communicating with me. I'm not talking about one time, I'm talking about 2 or 3 times a day, calling and giving me updates on courthouses being closed, the city of Shreveport, the administration staff, with the experts, and what you guys had thought we needed to do. So that's my report. I thank y'all.
I have no cards for citizens late arrival.
Move for adjournment.
Okay.
We have consent agenda.
Okay.
Now move.
Now I have a motion by Commissioner Middleton to adjourn, so we're adjourned. I got one question. What LB come in here and make one motion and leave?
Yeah, he did a good job.
I looked up and said,
That's effective.
I saw
That's it.
I can't see.
Oh, yeah.
I saw some